Alrighty, what's going on, guys? Hope you're having a good week so far. What is it, Wednesday? Having a good week so far. I think I've had a pretty good week. It's been a bit chill, just been doing a bit of editing and stuff. Um, let's get this started. Let's work out whether the audio is good. I'm using a different mic this time, so hopefully the audio is okay. Let me know in the comments below if it is okay, and we can start getting this happening. Looks like my internet is terrible again, so let me hotspot so it doesn't make it terrible. Personal hotspot on. Here we go. Out already. Alright, we're back. I just changed to my hotspot on my phone because it says the connection is pretty bad. So, is it lagging? Is it okay? Is it working? I need to figure out this internet situation here because it doesn't seem to be doing very good for the live streams. But we'll see how we go. Anyway, today we are talking about. I forgot to update my banner. We are talking about cameras. Oh, here we go. Show. Bam. Tonight we're talking everything cameras. So what I want to do is go through kind of like where I started when I first started doing video, and then kind of where I've worked to over the last, I guess I started making videos like 16, 17 years ago. So over the last 16, 17 years, where I have progressed and the kind of like gear that I've slowly acquired over that time to get to where I am today. Because I feel like a lot of people just want to like get the best of the best, and like that's fine if you really want to, but there is like I guess like a good and bad thing about starting with something that is a little bit limiting, because then you learn the right sort of techniques and stuff, or how to utilize that bit of gear as best you can, and then obviously then you can upgrade when you are limited by the gear that you're using. That's the best way to do it anyway, and that's how I've tried to do it with all the gear that I've, I guess, purchased over my career so far. But yeah, James, what's going on? So just swap to the hotspot. Winner. The little bad connection thing's not working. So let's turn this off. If you guys have any questions about cameras, leave them in the comments below. I'll bring them up and I'll answer them. Otherwise, let's get started. Let's get straight into it. This is what I prepared. Let me bring this up so I can go through this. And let me make it a bit bigger. Bam! Look at that. Who knows what this is? Canon EOS 1000D with a kit lens. What a bloody ripper. So, this would have been 2022 minus 2005-ish. Oh, I need to go back and try to find like my original photos and stuff. That would be pretty cool. Around 2005, say 2004, I started taking photos on my mum and dad's like little Happy Snaps camera. Kind of started doing macros and landscapes, the usual stuff that everyone does when they first get started in like photography. And I really enjoyed it. I just really enjoyed like the creative side of things, and kind of like what I could create, and like showing people and the reactions you'd get from people and whatnot. So after kind of like playing around with that, I decided to invest in an actual camera. So a DSLR camera where I could buy different lenses and whatnot. Oh, actually, I forgot to get, there was another camera in here. Let me, 2 secs. I've got like the cameras that I bought, but I missed one. So let me quickly download an image of this one, and I'll put it into my slides. Because that is another very important one. Actually, if I got the... That is not the lens. Anyway, let's chuck this in as well, if I can. Thumbnails. Can I just add this in? That was... I think it was there, actually, yeah. Okay, so, yeah, first camera. 1000D. I think this thing cost me like $1,000 or $1,500 back in the day. This was bloody 16, 17 years ago. It's been a while since I started, since I've been around. But yeah, bought a 1000D with a kit lens. Which I think I bought the 2 kit lens. So I had the 18 to 55 and the 55 to 150 or something. Canon 55 to 250 kit lens. Oh, gross. But yeah, that is the first camera I started on. And I actually started using that for video as well. So if you look at the very first YouTube videos I did on my channel, actually, was that 15 years ago? Maybe it was 15 years ago when I first started, but then I like dabbled in, Now I'm questioning when I first started, when I first got this camera. Anyway, the first videos that I did on my YouTube channel, I believe were on the EOS 1000D. So if you go back, there's a few of my first videos. I've privated some of them. Maybe I'll make them public again, just for a laugh. But yeah, the first videos I made were on the EOS 1000D. This thing was so basic. Like, I don't think you could even do manual settings in video. I think it was just auto, and you just had to basically work with what you could. And I remember the first time I actually got one of these cameras, and I told, like, I was like, my parents and stuff were like, why is it so expensive? Well, they were kind of like, why is it so expensive? My friends were like, why is it so expensive? And I was like, it just takes, like, these are the cameras that you get because it takes amazing images. But I didn't know anything about cameras, so I'd just leave on auto, and I try to take photos to show my friends. And because we're in like a low light area, it took really blurry photos. And I was like, yeah, check out these photos. Like, I took these photos and they were all blurry. And I was like, must be something wrong. Like, it does actually take really good photos, but I just didn't understand everything like ISO, shutter speed, aperture, all that kind of stuff when I first started, like you all do. So, yeah, this is the first camera that I started on. Here you go. Until about 2 months ago, I used those two lenses on my Canon EOS 500D. 12 years old this year. Finally upgraded to a M6 Mark II with a 14 to 35 kit lens over Christmas. M6 Mark II is such a good camera, man. Such a good camera. And the 14 to 35 is actually not that bad as well. Like, it's a pretty good lens. Yeah, so that was the first camera. And then after I kind of like started like shooting and realizing that I started hitting the limitations of that pretty quick, because obviously it's a very, very basic camera. I then saved up all my pennies and I invested in a Canon EOS 7D. This is not the Mark II. Let's just blank out the Mark II. It was not a Mark II. Oh, how do I... block it out. It's not a Mark II. It was a Mark I. And I actually bought that with a 24 to 105 f4L. That was my first L series lens. And like before upgrading my body, I bought a whole bunch of different lenses. Like I bought like a 10 to 20 mil wide angle, and I bought a fisheye, and I bought a telephoto and stuff. So I was slowly upgrading the lenses. But this was the first like serious camera. And I remember the reason I bought this was because I saw Devon Supertramp, or Devon Graham, on YouTube, and he was filming some stuff on the 7D, and I was like, that's the camera. If he can get the images like this, then that's the camera that I need. Thinking like a lot of people do these days, where it's like, what camera have you got? And if I buy that camera, all my photos and videos and stuff will look as good as yours, which isn't really the case, but a lot of people still do think that way. So, Jason, what's going on? Yeah, the classic 7D. So the funny thing about this is, like, for photos it was okay. Video, it was horrendous. Like, it was so bad. The noise, actually, even for photos, the noise this thing produced, and like, literally you couldn't shoot above like ISO 400, because the shadow noise was just absolutely horrendous. But again, it was like a step up from my 1000D, so it was like the next level. This one I could actually like control the settings in video, which is pretty cool. And then that kind of like started me on the journey of starting to film stuff. But when I first started, I didn't actually I wasn't actually filming like short films or YouTube videos. I was filming YouTube videos, but just like kind of, I didn't really know where I wanted to take my like photography and video side of things. So I was just filming like tiny little snippets, and I was basically doing like visual effects on it. So I learnt from a website called videocopilot.net, which is still around. Andrew Kramer, who runs that, is like well renowned now. He's an absolute legend. But yeah, I started learning his stuff like 15, 16 years ago, and I would shoot little videos on this and then do these effects on it. And I can probably I can show you some of them. I think they're on Vimeo where I was posting them. Let's see. Let me try to pull this up, and we'll see. M6 II is freaking amazing. I absolutely love that camera, hey. And it's so small as well. It just has so much power because it's essentially a Canon 90D. All the internals are the same as a Canon 90D. It's basically just housed into a smaller mirrorless kind of like camera sort of thing. Oh, here we go. Look at all this stuff. Let's do this. This is the kind of stuff I was doing. How do I... let me stop sharing. Share a new screen. Window. Bam. Can you guys see this? So this is... look at that, 13 years ago. This is the sort of stuff I would do with my camera. Actually, I don't think this was even the 7D. This was on, like, mum and dad's camera. So I would do these little, like, visual effects things with my mate. And I just loved it. Like, I loved... oh, look at this growing plant. This is all the stuff that I started doing back in the day. Just learning all the cool stuff. I started getting into 3D tracking. This was Murph Inc. This was going to be like my production company back in the day. And I tracked some text onto my auntie's driveway. 13 years ago. Look at that. Crazy. And then I remember this as well. So this was even before... actually, yeah, so this was before I even got a DSLR. This is when I had like a handy cam. And I remember I could only shoot standard definition. I bought a HD camera, and I wanted to do a comparison between how good standard definition was to high definition. And look at the main thing I noticed was the colors. I was like, man, look at the colors, like so much more vibrant, so much more detailed. It's like crazy. But it's like this is 720p. This isn't even full HD. This is just high definition, which is just crazy. And then look, here's little 13-year-ago Andy. Doing my little Covenant flaming eyes effect. And actually, look at this, I actually started doing tutorials. This was 13 years ago. I did a little tutorial in After Effects. Oh man. Just always been teaching people, always been doing cool stuff. Done a 12 years ago, look at this. Crazy. Anyway, we are getting a little bit off track, so let's get back to what we were talking about, which is cameras. Here we go. I remember back in those days, started with a Canon 650D. Man, I swear everyone started with like 1000D, 500D, like something like that. It was like whatever the Rebel T2i was. I don't know what the equivalent to that is. Everyone like loved that. Hey, it was like, yeah, that's like the camera to get. Hey. Anyway, so like let's get going. So this was a 7D Mark II. I bought it with the 24-105 f4L, which I still have. I literally still have that lens today. Look. This is the lens that I bought it with. The 24-105. So I have had this for a decade or more. It's crazy. And it's still going so good. Like, I freaking love this lens. Anyway, next, let's move on. Oh, look, J2I. What's going on, dude? Still rocking the 200D Mark II. But that's like an upgrade. 200D Mark II is an upgrade from, like, the original 200D. So, you're not like... what is it, like peasant spec? But it's not like how limited it was back in the day when it was like at 1000D. Because back in the day it was a photography camera that had like very few video features. I think it just did 720p. I think that was it. Like it was just basically did nothing. Here we go, Jason. Nikon D90, 12 megapixels. Man, we were talking about this the other day. It's not the megapixels, it's the quality of the megapixels. I'm pretty sure the 1D X Mark 1, I think it was 8 megapixels or something. Like, it was basically nothing, and that was like the professional, like, your billboard kind of photography camera, which is just crazy sort of thing. With the specs, there is not much in the junior to intermediate range you can't do with that. There you go. 16 Mark II. It's amazing. Anyway, let's get back to it. So, yeah, so 7D, that was my next camera. And then this was my upgrade. So this was when I started, like, wanting to do more video side, because I realized that the 7D wasn't really the best option because there was so much noise. So I kept the 7D and I bought a second-hand 5D Mark II. Alright, sorry, we're back. I don't know what happened there. Yeah, so hopefully, I don't know what got cut off there, but basically, bought a secondhand 5D Mark II, and then because this is full frame, because like you can start doing some interesting things with this. And again, I bought this camera. This is actually pretty funny. So I bought this camera again because I saw that Devin Graham was using it, and a few other people that I like aspired to be like were using it. And again, I was like, if they have this camera and this is the kind of quality and this is the videos they're producing, then if I buy this camera, then I can also make these videos as well. So that's why I upgraded to a 5D Mark II. And moving to like a full frame camera and starting to get like more depth of field and starting to experiment with like full frame glass and stuff, that was where it really started getting exciting for me. And I guess like the 5D Mark II, I think it was the 5D Mark II, that was kind of the camera that like revolutionized DSLR video sort of thing, because it just like it produced like such good images for kind of like where it was in the market and at the time sort of thing. But anyway, so yeah, so that was the 5D Mark II. That then upgraded to a 5D Mark III, and then I sold the 7D. So my dual cameras was a 5D Mark II and a 5D Mark III. 5D Mark III, I think that one. No, that one didn't even have autofocus in video. So none of these had autofocus as well, which is crazy. And I was still making like client videos and stuff and starting my business, but it was just a very different time back then to what it is now. But yeah, 5D Mark III. This is where I started. I think like doing a lot more like client video stuff, where I started kind of like pushing it a bit more because just the image quality was a lot better. But it just wasn't. I don't know how to explain it, but I just wasn't giving me the results that I really wanted. Like the look wasn't quite there. You could put like a flat profile on it and then kind of color grade it a bit, but they like the 5D Mark III didn't have a log profile. It didn't have a flat profile which could color grade afterwards, and it was still quite limiting in video because it was a photography first camera, and because I was kind of going more and more down the video side of things, I wanted to upgrade to something a little bit better that was more dedicated towards video. So not this camera. This was the actually no. I'm pretty sure I bought this first. So this was the Canon C100 Mark I. I bought this second hand from Sun Studios over in Sydney. Actually, they had an X rental one they wanted to get rid of. I think I paid like $3,500 something back in the day for this. And this thing was sick, so it only shot 1080p. If anyone has used a C100 Mark I or Mark II, they are absolutely freaking amazing cameras. But because this was my first introduction to cinema bodies and kind of like having a flat profile and like just like having built-in ND filters and stuff, literally as soon as I got this camera, everything changed for me. Like I couldn't go back. Well, I really struggled to go back to shooting on DSLRs and stuff, just because like the standard was just so high moving to a cinema camera, and basically I was like, this is the kind of cameras that I want to work with moving forward, rather than like shooting on DSLRs and stuff. Because back in the day, like a 5D Mark III, it was like super duper like way too over sharpened and like way too saturated, and the image just looked really digital. Whereas like going to a cinema camera, obviously they're designed to be like a video first camera, so they look much better when you're shooting video. And I shot with this for ages. I think I shot with this for about a year. And the crazy thing as well, this didn't really have a 50 frames a second. It had 50i, which you could interpolate into slow motion. It wasn't real slow motion. Like it wasn't 50p. It was this weird in between thing, but you could still do it. But I shot so much stuff with this. Shot so much social content. Shot so many client videos in this, and it just made me fall in love with the Canon cinema lineup. Now, the reason that I decided to move from this, or basically use this as my second camera rather than using it as my main camera, was that the autofocus was fixed to the middle. So it just had a square in the middle, and you couldn't change it. It was just you focus in the middle or you manual focus, and that started becoming an issue because I wanted to obviously like move the point around and like kind of not have to focus in the middle. Like I basically would have to compose everything with everything in the middle, which is not really what you want it to be limited to. Like you want to be able to explore and compose differently, and depending on the kind of situation you're in, sort of thing. So from there, I ended up I kept that as my second camera, and I bought a C100 Mark II, again secondhand. So I guess you can see the trend with this. A lot of the gear that I have bought in my career has been secondhand, just because I haven't had the money. That's why I haven't had the money. I just haven't wanted to go into debt to buy something that I could get for potentially a bit cheaper. That's just kind of a little bit banged up and stuff. I'd rather spend a little bit less and get it and figure out if I really want it or not, and then invest in something in the future, or potentially as well like buy a second-hand camera and then use the excess money that I could have got from buying it brand new to buy a light or a mic or a lens or something else as well. So that is kind of like my approach back in the day, and still today as well. Like, it's, if you can spread your money or make your money work for you rather than kind of like spending it on one thing, works much better. C100 is still a solid camera. Yeah, man, so good. And the crazy thing is as well, this is when everyone talks about like kind of like megapixels and bit rates and stuff. The C100, I'm gonna Google this because I want to see what it is. Canon C100 Mark 1 bit rates. I'm pretty sure it was 24 megabit per second maximum. It did 1080p at 24 megabit a second. Now people are shooting at like 600, 700, 1000 now, and they're like, oh, I need like all this crazy thing. Man, I was shooting on 24 megabit a second, and I was shooting log, and I was color grading, and it looked freaking amazing. Like, that's the benefit of shooting on a video first camera. It has a super 35mm sensor, and it's dedicated. They've engineered everything to make it look as good as possible. It doesn't need like crazy bit rates and all this stuff to make it look good. So that's why I love it. When did you realize how important lighting is to making your videos, photos, rather than just the most expensive camera? Funnily enough, it was only probably 2 years ago when I actually moved over to the Gold Coast. I really wanted to change my style. I really wanted to like step up and make my content look much better, feel more professional, so I could elevate myself to that next level. Essentially, the reason that I ended up closing my business in Perth and taking a year off was because I did very, very basic lighting. Like, I had 3 Godox SL60Ws, and I would just do literally like camera, key light, maybe a hair light. Very rarely I'd do like more than kind of like a key light. Like, it was very, very basic, and it was just very cookie cutter. So basically all my videos were looking the same. It was all on a gimbal, it was all on a cinema camera, and it was all basically with an 18 to 35mm f1.8 Sigma lens. And that was it. Like, it had a good style, and everyone kind of like knew the kind of videos that I produced, and they liked the videos I produced. But it was just, I was getting bored with it because it was so easy to do and so easy to make, and it wasn't stretching my creativity that much. So when I moved over to the Gold Coast and I started doing my YouTube channel full time for that first year, I just decided to go hardcore into lighting and just learning as much as I could, so to change the way that my, I guess, like videos or content would look, sort of thing. 35 megabit a second. I think that is in 50i. In 25 frames a second, or 50i, and 25 frames a second is 24. Let me just double check. In AVC HD. Bloody ripper. Specifications. Where is it? Input, output? Recording code, here we go. Yeah, 24 megabit a second. I think the 50 was 35. It was just slightly more, but it wasn't even like double, sort of thing. Don't forget to smash the like button. You know it, guys. Bailey's working for me, basically. I appreciate it. I'm gonna leave that up. Why not? So yeah, let's keep going through. So yeah, so I upgraded to the C100 Mark II, and then we have to kind of go back. I then bought a 6D Mark II to replace my 5D Mark III. The reason that I did this was because the 5D Mark III didn't have autofocus, and this was the time that I started getting into my YouTube channel and started vlogging. So I needed something that had autofocus. I tried to vlog with the C100 Mark I, and it just wasn't very practical, especially because it was a super 35mm sensor. So just like the lens that I could use, and like it just wasn't the best option. So I ended up selling the 5D Mark III and buying a 6D Mark II, which is kind of like a downgrade, but the video features were much better because it can't. This I don't think. Oh, it might have had dual pixel autofocus in this. But anyway, it had some sort of autofocus in there. The video codecs weren't as good as the 5D Mark III. Still didn't have a log codec, but I managed to find like a neutral profile and make a LUT that kind of worked with it. And yeah, still full frame camera. 16 Mark II is a bloody ripper camera. Like, if anyone has it and like doesn't like it, freaking love that camera. It was absolutely amazing. Now it's pretty old now. Now we got like the ESR and the mirrorless range of stuff, which absolutely like decimate it. But back in the day, it was a pretty good camera, I think. Anyway, so that was kind of like my C cam kind of like vlogging setup, and then after a while, I found that I didn't find basically the C200 came out. And I had the C100 Mark 1, C100 Mark 2, and that they could only shoot 1080p. And I was like, okay, do I keep going down the 1080p route, or do I start to upgrade my gear and start to move into the 4K space? And then like I could have got something in between the C100 Mark 2 and the C200, but then I was like, it also shoots RAW, which then could potentially like allow me to do like films and stuff, or start doing better content. And then I just kind of fell in love with it, so I ended up buying the C200, which is down there collecting dust, funnily enough. And this was like game-changing for my career. Oh, here you go. I still use the 16 Mark II for a specific client. Bloody ripper, mate. Does the client specifically want that camera? Maybe lower budgets? It'll be interesting to see. I'm going to bring this back up. Yeah, so this was like goals for my career. So I bought the C200. I think it cost like nearly $10,000 when I got it back in the day. And this was the biggest investment I'd ever made in anything in my life. Like more than a car, more than computers, more than anything. This was the biggest investment I had ever made in my career. So it took a lot of like, I guess like thinking before I actually got it. But honestly, it was one of the best things. Like, literally, that camera paid itself off in probably, like, 3 months sort of thing. Like, it just... The ability to shoot ridiculously high-quality content at a very... It's still a very compact body. Let me grab it. Still a very compact body. So this is the trusty C200, as you can see in the photos. And this thing is a freaking weapon. Shoots 4K, 60, 1080p, 120 frames a second, but without autofocus, which was a bummer. The only bad thing about this is that the internal codec is only 8-bit, and they're quite low bit rates as well. So I basically bought this with the intention to shoot everything RAW, but then realized that the RAW codec is 1000 megabit a second, and my computer couldn't handle it, and it was just like the worst thing in the world. So I basically have shot RAW on this camera maybe a handful of times, maybe a dozen times. Like, I very rarely shoot RAW on it because it's just the processing power you need to actually like compile the data afterwards and work with it was just not very very user friendly, or very I guess wasn't really worth my time with the like kind of jobs that I was doing back in the day. But that absolutely changed everything, because it had like, the main thing was I basically set this up like a C100 Mark 1 or Mark 2. I put the monitor on the side on a little bracket, so it looked like a C100 Mark 2. And then I flew this on a Ronin S with a Sigma 18-35mm, literally for like 18 months straight with all my jobs. Literally would shoot 4 to 5 times a week with this setup. The Ronin S lasted 18 months doing that. And that's like a big setup to have on a Ronin S, and then eventually end up dying. But yeah, that was my go-to camera, go-to setup for the longest time, and it just worked so good. Like, it was just freaking amazing. Client supplied the camera to me for those jobs, so yeah, there you go. Very, very cool. Yeah, so C200 Mark II. That was like the biggest kind of point in my career, I reckon. And this is after kind of being in my business for maybe like 3 years. So I'd been working my ass off, kind of working building up like a bit of revenue, building up some clients, building a lot of content and stuff. And then that was kind of like my gift to myself for working so hard. And it was just, I still remember the day I got it as well. I was just like so excited. I literally like just took it out of the box and just went out shooting. Just had nothing to shoot, but just went out shooting because I was just way too excited. So very, very cool. I am almost done going through my cameras. Leave some comments below, guys, if you want me to answer any questions about cameras and whatnot. And I'll quickly finish this, and then we can have a discussion and talk and blah, 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 all that stuff. So, yeah, CG100 was my camera for the longest time. Moved over to the Gold Coast. Oh, yeah, sorry, and then I haven't even put the mirrorless cameras in here, but I bought the Canon EOS R, so that was the upgrade for the 16 Mark II. The main reason was it had a log profile, and it was a little bit smaller as well, so that's why I ended up doing that. And I also shot 4K, so it kind of ended up replacing my C100s because I sold them when I moved to the Gold Coast because I tried to like downsize everything. So it was kind of like EOS R and C200 was my two cameras that I would have. And the EOS R, because it shot a log profile, worked as a B camera kind of as well. So that was kind of where I went to. And then C70 came out, and it was just like the benefits, the downsides of the C200 kind of like were the strong points in the C70. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, I have to have this camera. Ended up buying it. So that is C70. That is the current camera that I use at the moment. Canon C70. This bloody rip schnorter. All rigged out. Yeah. And I don't think I'll move from this anytime soon. It suits the kind of like shooting style that I love. I was tempted for the longest time to get a red Komodo, just because I really love the red raw codec and kind of like their, I don't know, just the image that comes out of them were very, very interesting. But I just couldn't justify buying that with the C70 as well. However, I am very tempted to sell my C200 and get something different because I just don't use the C200 anymore. I feel like it's a lot of camera for just kind of like being a B cam or just kind of like sitting on the side. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. And also I end up selling the EOS R and getting the R6. So filming on the R6 right now. Hopefully it's not overheating. Looks pretty good. Shooting on the EOS R right now, and this is my kind of like vloggy behind the scenes camera. Main reason I upgraded to this was 4K 60 and no 4K 120, no 4K 60, no, so 4K 60 and 10-bit and IBIS, just to make it easier, because a lot of the behind the scenes content I was getting on my C200 from people who helped me out, it was just quite shaky because it has no IBIS because it's a cinema camera. So yeah, that is where we're at the moment. But yeah, who knows? Red Komodo could come out. I mean, Red Komodo could be here in the future. Yeah, lots of different options. Let's go through some questions. Has anything ever tempted you to move from Canon? Red Komodo definitely tempted me, and especially as well because it was an RF, because it is an RF mount. And obviously a lot of my lenses are EF, but I adapt them to RF because I've got the R6 and the C70, which are both RF mounts. Yeah, that has definitely tempted me. The Blackmagic Pocket 6K and 6K Pro, that has tempted me more times than any other camera ever has. Just because the main thing I love about that, and I wish Canon would implement into their cameras, is their compression ratio. It's kind of like Red as well. So I guess you can see where I'm kind of, why I like Red and where I'm trying to like find cheaper versions of a Red camera. So Blackmagic Pocket 6K has shoots 6K, but it has compression ratios. So you can shoot like 1:1, which is obviously the best, or you can shoot like 8:1 or 12:1 or whatever. If you want to still shoot RAW, but you don't want to have crazy amounts of data, which is what I'm always trying to do. Like shooting YouTube videos, I try to shoot on like semi-low quality because it doesn't need to be crazy quality. It just takes up a lot more space on my computer. So I prefer to just kind of like find stuff where you get like 90% of the benefits, but with kind of like 90% less work or less data sort of thing. So yeah, Komodo or Blackmagic 6K Pro. I'd say that too. Oh, C70 is amazing for its size. Its digital IS and lens IS combination is so solid. Don't even need tripods. Yeah, crazy. I've definitely like a lot of basically all my YouTube content, all my B-roll on my YouTube content is typically shot on the Canon C70. All the stuff that I shoot with Jason is typically shot on the C70, and most of it's just handheld. Like I don't remember the last time I shot with a gimbal. And I usually when I'm shooting with Jason, I use this 24-105 f4L IS lens with digital stabilization, and like I can basically like walk behind him and nearly get it like perfectly stable like it's on a gimbal. It's pretty crazy. I did see today, but Josh Yo from Make Art Now just released a video on the DJI Ronin 4D, and he was literally sprinting down the street holding it handheld, and because it's got that the gimbal and the fourth axis, it looked like it was an FPV drone. Like it was just perfectly smooth. It was crazy. I definitely need to get my hands on that because that is, I'd say that's another camera as well that's made me think about like testing something new. I love the concept of having the gimbal built in, but also I don't love the concept of being limited to, I guess like if you want to use like cinema lenses and stuff, you lose the gimbal functionality, which I guess is the whole point that you get the Ronin 4D sort of thing. Also, I just realized that my YouTube video just went live, I believe, at 8 o'clock. Let me double check. Yes, it did just go live. So we'll finish up soon, and then you can go check that out. Tempted by the FX6. FX6 is an amazing camera. The main reason I'm not tempted by it is because Jason has it. So if I really wanted to use it, I'm sure I could just ask Jason and he'd happily lend it to me, wouldn't you, Jason? But FX6 is an amazing camera. The main thing I don't like, purely just because I guess I haven't spent the time using it, is I just don't understand the interface and kind of how everything works. The main thing that I really love about it is that variable electronic ND thing. I don't know how it works. That thing is just an absolute game changer. Like, yeah, it's if every camera has, or hopefully every camera moving forward has that system, because like the main thing is, especially like Canon C70, Canon C200, they have ND filters built in, but it's like 1 stop, 2 stop, 4 stop, 6 stop, whatever. It's like full stops, which sometimes you don't want to do a full stop. Sometimes it's like you just need a tiny bit, which is where that electronic variable ND comes in really good. So that is definitely something that has tempted me by the Sony FX6. But yeah, I've shown Jason's a lot when we're shooting kind of like stuff together, and I really love it. Like the image comes out of it is really good. Cine, was it Cine Cine tone or whatever? It's a good codec if you just want to like bang something out and not have to color grade it. I really like the look of that. S-Log is a little bit weird. The colors are still a little bit weird. The main thing I guess that I would struggle with moving from Canon is the skin tones. Canon skin tones are just like so good, and every time I shoot on something different or get footage from a different camera, I just realize how good the skin tones are and how little you have to do to make it look good. So that is, yeah, I think that's why I really love shooting on Canon. Just it's so good. Plus all my stuff is EF mount, so it's kind of a bit pointless to move to a different system unless it's really, really good. Like eventually I'll end up probably moving to a Red or something like that, just because that is, I guess, like the next step. Like I don't know, like it's one of those things where it's like, do I go like a C300 or a C500 Mark II, or sorry, C500 Mark III? Do I go down that similar line, or then do I move to a Red and start going into that territory? So many decisions. Don't know. The main thing I want to talk about, but which we'll wrap up on because I need to post my YouTube video onto my Instagram and stuff, is that the whole point of this was to basically show you guys that I've been doing this for years and years and years. I've been shooting videos and photos for like 16 years, 17 years, something. I've accrued all my gear over that time. So if you're looking at me and you're like, he's got a C70, he's got a C200, like, I don't know, he must be rich or something, like, I have accrued this stuff over a long period of time. So if you're just starting now, don't expect to get like a C70 and C200 like straight away, unless you like have saved a lot of money or you're going into a lot of debt. you have to work your way up to that. And I don't feel like you should just buy a lot of gear straight away. Look at, like, do some research, invest in kind of the core stuff that allows you to do what you do. And then when you hit limitations, then look at what you can buy or what you can upgrade to then allow you to push more, be more creative and whatnot. Because sometimes when you buy the best of the best and you have unlimited resources or unlimited ways of using it, sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming. And it is nice to have restrictions or like boundaries to work in, because I find, especially for me anyway, when I have boundaries to work in, I can really utilize and really make the most of everything that I have inside that boundary. Whereas when you're first starting out, if your boundaries are like basically unlimited, then it's really hard to like focus and get learn everything and get the most out of the gear you have, because it's just like exponential the amount of stuff you can learn. So that's just kind of like my perspective. I'm sure other people in here would feel the same way. Another thing as well is, like, I hear a lot of people saying I say the gear obviously potentially doesn't matter, and a lot of people will complain and be like, yeah, but like you've got all the gear, so you understand that. Yeah, I can tell you that because I've got the gear and I realize that it doesn't matter. People that don't have gear don't understand that it doesn't matter because they haven't experienced using gear and realizing that it doesn't matter, if that makes sense. So yeah, so next time you're looking at a piece of gear, just look at kind of like what you have and ask if you're getting it because you just want it, or you're getting it because it's like making you more efficient, or it's helping you your workflow, or it's making you or allowing you to get bigger clients, or allowing you to do something that you currently can't do with the gear you have. And it's also fun as well, like using the gear you have to try something crazy. Like if you've only got like a 60-watt light, try, I don't know, figure out a way to light up, I don't know, make like a 3-point lighting with a 1 light or something. Like, instead of buying all this other gear, like, just get creative. Try to do some cool stuff. Yeah. That is my take on it. 100% gear doesn't matter, so long as you have something with a manual setting option. Yes, I mean, you can get away with auto, it's just not as good. But yeah, definitely manual. I definitely say that manual, once you start learning, definitely need it. When you're first starting out, auto's fine. Like, but I don't think any cameras now don't have a manual setting. Basically everything shoots manual, so we're very, very lucky. Roger! Dang it, I'm late. That's alright, mate. You can watch the replay. It's going to be live. It's going to be uploaded to the channel, so you can check out what we've been talking about. Basically just went through what my camera situations have been over the last 13, 14, 15, 16 years. So anyway, guys, I hope this has kind of like helped you understand where I've come from, where I am now, and kind of like hopefully where I'm going in the future. And just wanted to share a bit more of my journey and help you guys understand kind of like how long I've been doing this for, why I'm doing it, what I'm doing, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you so much. I am slowly getting back onto the live stream grind. I was very lazy. I only posted this up like an hour or two ago or something. So let me see if anyone's asked any questions. We have got a few questions. Oh, James. Best camera feature you have seen on any camera. Also worst. Best camera feature. Okay, 2. The electronic variable ND on the FX6 is one of the best. The other one is on the DJI Ronin 4D. There's that like, it uses the LiDAR sensor to recreate a it's like that focus system, but it's like a top-down perspective of your scene, so you can like pull focus. Oh, I don't know exactly how. I understand kind of how it works. I don't understand how to explain it simply, but essentially it has a LiDAR system and it sends out beams, and then whatever comes back, it then interpolates that with distance, and it shows you a top-down scene, a top-down view of your scene, and that has like a line where you can basically pull focus. That thing is just insane. Like, that is revolutionary. I hope that starts getting implemented into like a lot of other cameras, or becomes a system that you can just use with, say, like a focus pulling system or something, because that is freaking cool. Worst feature on a camera. I mean, it's hard. Most cameras now are just like really, really good. So, worst Worst feature. Put me on the spot. I don't know. Actually, in saying that, the new Canon R5C not having C-Log 2, trash. Like, why? Absolute worst thing you could possibly do with a camera. Hate it. Sick features, I agree. Focus by waveform, style, monitor window. Yeah, it's just, it blows my mind when I see it. It's crazy. And then also we have Josh from Perth. How's your storage solution? Feel like I'm on a treadmill here. It's something different. Okay, yeah, so storage for me, it's probably a whole nother live stream in itself. But basically my basic system is I have a NAS which has 4 8TB NAS drives in it. That is in RAID 5, so that is a 18TB system with 1 for redundancy. And then I used to have like a bit more complex system, but since moving over here I've tried to like make it a bit more simple. And then basically from there I just offload stuff onto hard drives when I finish with it. I've been really bad the last couple of years offloading stuff. It just still lives on the NAS. And then I edit everything through there. But the problem is that I was running it through a 10 gigabit Ethernet cable, which was really, really quick. But now the Mac Mini that I've got, the M1 Mac Mini, only has a standard Ethernet. So I am limited to 100 megabytes per second, or megabits per must be megabytes per second. Which isn't the fastest. Like I definitely notice when I'm editing it is a little bit slow. So I need to find a better solution for that to speed up my process. But yeah, that's it. NAS drive with 4 8TB SSDs in RAID 5. That's basically it. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate all. Mute. Mute. Am I back? Are we here? Yeah, you can hear me. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'm going to try this every single Wednesday. Moving forward, I may miss a few here and there, but that is the plan. So, yeah, I'll post up new topics on my Instagram. So if you're not following me at Andrew Murphy Films on Instagram, be sure to come follow and check it out. I post daily stories of like behind the scenes stuff that I'm doing on commercials and short films and stuff. And yeah, just fun reels and stuff. So if you're not following me, go check that out. I just released a video on the Nanlite projector mounts, kind of like answering some questions about them and showing you how you can utilize them in different situations. And I also use them on my latest the short film that I'm going to be releasing end of this month. So it is the February short film. One of my goals this year is to make 12 short films, so 1 short film a month. And the second one is the February one. So it's called What Happened in Mexico. It'll be released end of this month. Get keen. I'm currently editing it, but it's going to be good. It's going to be different. But yeah. Thank you again for tuning in. We're back. We're all good. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. Appreciate you. I'll see you in the next one. Have fun. Be sure to check out my new video. Or something. See ya!